Awesome. Okay, so we've got a few of you in cars, which is totally cool. I'm just letting a few more people in. Just a reminder that we are recording, but we're only recording for this group. So it's completely private and confidential within this group. Yay. And I just also wanted to remind everybody that this is a safe space to share, like, especially for the new people. Those of you who've re-enrolled, you know this already, but you know, within this group, we might be sharing quite personal details about our businesses. We might be sharing numbers, financial details about things that we're struggling with that we might not necessarily want the world to know about. So just a reminder that whatever we share in this group remains completely between us, and it's private and it's confidential and not to be shared outside. I know everybody knows that, but since this is our first session of a new cohort, I think it's a good reminder. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon. I've got a weird dark background because I'm hiding in my son's bedroom. My daughter, my baby, isn't very well. It's just a cold, but she's like really snotty and miserable. So she's actually gone to sleep now, and she's in my bedroom. And so my son a while ago decided that he wanted to paint the walls of his bedroom dark grey, which is just a rebellion to how many colours I like to have everywhere else. So that's why it looks like a dungeon. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we've already got started in the group chat. And if you haven't already dropped in there that little kind of phrase about what your business is, what the name of your business is, and what you offer, I think most of you here have. In fact, I think you all have. But if there's anyone who hasn't, and anyone listening to the replay who hasn't, please go ahead and do that. It's for two reasons. One, it helps us to get to know each other. But two, more importantly, it helps you to clarify, to get super clear on what it is that you're offering and for whom, which is really important. And with that said, I think it's really helpful if you can explain it in a way that someone who doesn't know anything about your industry would understand. So, for example, I noticed that Britt had said womb yoga, and then Heidi had kind of said, oh, womb yoga, like sort of question mark, what's that? So is there a way that you can describe womb yoga that makes sense to someone who doesn't know what womb yoga is in just a few words? And likewise with Amanda and cacao ceremonies, like we've probably all got an idea of what a cacao ceremony is, but let's be really explicit. Same with mudra. Like, let's not assume that people know what womb yoga is, what mudras are, what cacao ceremonies are. Let's find the words to articulate what those things are for people that have no idea. And it's not that you would necessarily use that in your marketing, because you may well not. Like, you might in your marketing make, like, for example, in my marketing, I assume that people know what Ayurveda is. I don't explain Ayurveda. Like, if you don't know what it is, then you're probably not going to buy my training. But it's still very useful as a sort of exercise for me to be able to speak about what Ayurveda is in just a few words that a layperson could understand. Does that make sense? Awesome. So those of you who've got cryptic anything, and it might not seem cryptic to you, but just anything that, you know, a very mainstream person that has nothing to do with your woo-woo corner of the internet wouldn't understand, then have a crack at expressing it in a way that's super, super clear and simple. Also, and there's a couple of you in this group, for those of you that have several different things that you're doing, I really want to invite you to find an umbrella to kind of like keep the several things, but have something over the top of it that is one thing. So I'm thinking particularly about Liz, I'm thinking about Amanda, and I'm thinking about, I don't know, Edwina's better, but I wonder if there's still some threads of that for Edwina, because you've got Shakti Creative, but I know there's other things you still do. So is there a way that you can articulate, like, over everything what you're doing? And then you can have the other things underneath that. Like, you know, there's a difference between what your business is and then what the offerings are within your business. So your business might be supporting women's well-being through yoga, and then one element of that might be womb yoga. Or your business might be you know, photography and events for spiritual people, and then underneath that you might have ritualism. So can we find the overarching thing, and then we can look at the offerings underneath it. Your business isn't your offerings. And if you're really struggling because you can't find a way that everything comes together because it all seems like it's very different, my recommendation would be use your own name and let that be the umbrella, and then everything else that can come underneath that, right? So that's a really good idea if you're just kind of like, I've got so many different things and I don't even know what I'm going to grow into. And you don't want to, like, for example, I was meeting with Emma yesterday, and she's going to be releasing a deck on mudras, and she's going to be creating a course on mudras. So I was like, oh, why don't we call it, you know, mudra magic, or, you know, whatever. And she said, well, I know that in the future it's not going to just be mudra. So that's really important, because she's not going to pigeonhole herself now and then later on be like, oh, I actually really want to add XYZ and I've made it too small. So she's already got a broader name that covers everything, but that would be my invitation. So keep going. Let's keep going with all of those in the WhatsApp chat, and we can just keep refining, and it will change. It changes and it evolves. And like I said, it may not be something that you use in your marketing material, but that clarity of definition is so helpful. Because if you can't even articulate what it is your business is and what it does and who it's for, then you're already starting in that place of vata overwhelm, and we haven't even begun. So we've got to get that like anchored in. Okay. So with that said, I don't want to spend heaps and heaps of time on introductions today, because I've got quite a few things I want to share with you around goals and goal setting, but particularly because we've got some new people in the group. Let's just do some quick intros. I know probably Britt and Heidi can't talk because you're in moving vehicles, but if you can just let me know, or let us know, what your name is, where you are. We're a pretty international group for this round, which is lovely. And very briefly, where you're at in your business. So just, yeah, a brief introduction. Let's hear from everyone. Who'd like to jump in first? And if you can't talk, just something in the chat is great.
I'm happy to start.
Thanks, Tracy.
My name's Tracy. I live in Melbourne. I'm at the beginning of my business. I did yoga teacher training and then my health coaching course, and graduated last year. So that's where with my health coaching course that I want to grow a business.
Beautiful. Thank you. And particular focus on gut health. Is that correct?
Correct. And women over 40. So, you know, in particular, perimenopause, menopausal woman is my niche. I have worked that out.
Yeah, that's beautiful and so helpful.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about this more on Thursday when we talk about offerings, but it's so helpful to have a niche. And I know that when you're first starting in business, you can feel like when you have a niche, you're actually creating less of a target audience, and that's a problem. But it's actually the opposite. When you really speak to a specific group of people, you're speaking their language and it's resonant for them. Like, so for example, you know, if I wanted to do some work around my gut health, I'd be so happy to work with someone who works with women and works with women over 40, because that's me. So rather than just any old gut health, and then I'm in with a load of kind of, I don't know, 20-year-old gym bunnies or something like that. So yeah, actually the more niche, it didn't used to be like that in the world before the internet. When, you know, I've been running businesses since before the internet existed. Back then, we wanted to be as open as possible. Like if you opened a yoga studio, you don't want to make it too niche, because you might not have, you know, people who fit that particular niche living in your neighborhood, especially if it's a smaller town. But because with the internet, we've literally got the whole world as our catchment base, then we can be really quite niche. The exceptions to that are if you're running something that's in person and local. So for example, Annika, you want to make sure you've got broad enough that like for example, if you were running a regular open yoga class, you'll get more people than if you're running a pregnancy yoga class, because there are less pregnant women living in Penrith than regular people that would attend a yoga class. But online businesses, you can, niching down will help you. It will really help you. Thanks, Tracy. Who's next? Edwina and then Liz.
Oh, sorry, Liz. Hi, I'm Edwina. I live in Newcastle, just north of Sydney, here in Australia. I teach yoga and Ayurveda to women in their 40s and 50s, and I also help yoga teachers and I guess spiritual entrepreneurs with their social media, online content marketing, and that sort of thing. So with my Shakti Creative business, so I've got two kind of businesses there. Yoga and Ayurveda, and then the online marketing content.
Beautiful. Thank you. Liz.
Hi, everybody. I am Liz. I'm a commercial photographer and yoga teacher. Through the last round with this group, I've developed Ritualism, which is an umbrella company with multiple offerings by me, including yoga, photography, special spiritual events, and that's also developing into my own clothing label. So, hi.
Beautiful. Thank you. Emma?
Hi, everybody. I'm Emma. I'm in Sydney, and I finished my yoga teacher training in 2016. I work part-time as a graphic designer, and I've had quite an array of jobs in the kind of marketing, PR, communication, social media realm. But my passion is yoga and also meditation, and predominantly mudras. I've worked on a mudra oracle, as Katie mentioned, and that's coming out at the end of the year. My website is that I do have a website. It's called Love Breath Space, and it's a bit like what Liz says. It's sort of overarching. It's a place where I share about yoga, meditation, mudras. At the moment, I have nothing to sell on it. It's just a blog, basically, and a page about me. So I'm really looking to create an online training to do with mudras at this stage. Yeah, that's me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Britt will come back to you. Heidi will come back to Amanda.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Amanda. I'm in Finland, and I just saw when I unmuted that it says Amanda's Yoga. That's how my business started, or like my first business name, like 9 years ago, and it was yoga to anybody, everybody, very, very much like that on the ground. And since then, it's evolved and changed and added much more elements of Ayurveda and become more of a school as well. So I teach teachers and then continuing education to teachers. And since a few years ago, cacao ceremonies have become a part of what I do as well, and a cacao brand. And it's kind of just gone from this like one thing to now there being very many things. And I'm almost 6 months postpartum now with my first baby. So in this like really who am I space, also realize like what is my business these days even anymore. So very much so figuring out, and like, yeah, clarity keeps coming up as this main thing for me now of, okay, at the moment my business is like I'm not really working too much with it, but I want to get back in quite soon and knowing what I'm doing. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Beautiful. Thank you. Annika?
Hello, my name's Annika. I've had yoga studios now for nearly 6 years, and it's always been my bread and butter. So I feel like I work a lot. What's the question? And yeah, so our yoga studios, Nin Yoga, we're located in Western Sydney, and our aim is to try and make yoga really accessible to us Westies. So as much as we love all the woo-woo as well, we're starting with sort of like the entry point. So the beginner's course does really well for us, and we have teacher trainings as well. And I'm just starting to branch out to completely rewrite the teacher training on my own, which will launch in October. Yeah, we also do retreats and online platforms and stuff like that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, awesome. Those of you who are watching the replay, feel free to share in the WhatsApp group if you would like to. I know that Kat and Giselle, who are both in the US, it's like a time difference thing, is this time isn't good for them, but they'll be on the 11 o'clock calls. So that's why we had a bit of a shuffle with the times. Thank you for bearing with us around that. The times that are on your private website page now are set in stone. I'm not going to change them again. So they're the times. And then Heidi is saying she's a hypnotherapist, NLP trainer, and combines both in her company Hypnoga. She lives in the Blue Mountains, New South Wales. Awesome. All right. So today I want to talk about goal setting. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about your offerings. And the two go really closely hand in hand. But let's start with goals, because that will help you to create some clarity. I personally like to create goals monthly. I know some people work weekly and other people work quarterly, so you can kind of condense down into weekly, or you can stretch out into quarterly. What I find is weekly doesn't give enough time. I mean, a week just goes by like that. Like, I take my daughter to a play group on Fridays and I'm just astounded every week that it's Friday again. I'm like, what happened? Where did it go? So yeah, a week I just feel like it's not enough. And then a quarter, what can happen with if you look at your business in terms of goal setting in terms of quarters, so blocks of 3 months, is it'll slow you down, because you'll feel like, oh, I've got all the time in the world. Like if you set a goal at January that doesn't need to be complete until the end of March, it's too slow. It's too much spaciousness, for me at least. So I think monthly is really great. The thing about goals is, well, there's a few things I can say about goals. First of all, if you're going to set a goal, it's really valuable to strive really hard to meet it, right? At the end of the day, we're only accountable to ourselves when we're self-employed. So it's really, really easy to just let yourself off the hook. And it's really easy to let yourself off the hook according to your emotions in that moment, right? So, for example, you might have a goal that you want 20 people to opt into a free webinar that you're going to run, let's just say. And then you launch the webinar, or you put the webinar out there, and only 5 people sign up straight away. And then you kind of go in your head, okay, well, 5 people's great. That's a good start. But 20 now feels like a stretch. So maybe I'll just think about 10. 10's good, right? And so we kind of go into this like negotiation with ourselves, which will derail you really fast. If you work for like a large corporation and you have things like KPIs that you have to work towards, or other types of goals, you don't get to renegotiate them with your boss. You don't get to go, oh, you know what? Like, I've just got my period and I'm feeling a bit tired, so I think I'm going to halve that goal that we set this morning. No, it doesn't work like that. The goal's the goal, right? The target's the target. So it's not that if you don't reach it that you beat yourself up, but if you let yourself off the hook before you've even begun, you're very likely to not hit the goal. I mean, I was talking to Annika about this because she's about to launch her teacher training. Well, I wasn't talking to her, I was actually writing, because I was working on a marketing plan for her. She's about to launch her teacher training, and her goal is 20 people in the teacher training. And I know, because it's a high ticket offering, so it's going to be work to get 20 people. There will be moments in that journey. She's putting it on sale in July and it starts in October, where 20 doesn't feel achievable. And it will be so easy for her to go down the rabbit hole of, oh, 15 would be fine, you know, or 10 is going to cover costs and that's great because it's only my first round, or whatever negotiation that we have in our own heads. And when I was talking to her about it, writing to her about it, I was like really firm of like, we're saying 20 and we mean 20, and we're going to work till we get 20, right? So with that, what is really important then is that your goals are realistic. So your goal should stretch you a little bit out of your comfort zone. It should feel just beyond what you think is possible, but it shouldn't stretch you so much that it seems completely bananas, right? Like if it's, you know, if it feels just like if your nervous system goes into some kind of shutdown or anxiety, then the goal is too much of a stretch. On the other hand, if you feel like, yeah, I can do that in my sleep, no problem, and there's a complacency, then it's not enough. So this is where the energetics come in. Like it's not, when you're goal setting, it's really energetic work. And I really want to invite you, as you're doing this practice over the next few days, and I've given you the worksheet. Did everyone get the email with the PDF in it? Yeah. I really want to invite you to feel into this, right? Not to think into it. So this is not mind. This isn't Manomaya Kosha. This is Vijnana Maya Kosha. It's the feeling body. How does this sit in my nervous system? And I want your nervous system to feel a little bit extended, but not so extended that it causes anxiety. Make sense? Yeah, beautiful. Now, the other thing to really consider around goal setting is there's two types of goals in this world, in this business work. One is a goal that you can't completely control. Like it's a thing like, I want X number of people to sign up for this offering, right? And then the other goal is a goal that you are completely in control of because it has to do with how hard you work at something. And it's really good to have both goals in mind. So a goal that you're completely in control of is, I want to have my website done by the end of June, right? Or I want to have this landing page finished by the 1st of July. You can control that goal, right? You might have to stay up till midnight the night before the deadline, but it's in your hands. The number of people that sign up for something isn't completely in your hands. It's related to how hard you work and what you do, but it's not completely, you know, there's a bit of divine intervention involved. So I recommend that with your goal setting, you do a combination of goals that you're completely in control of and goals that are a little bit up to, you know, the powers that be, not up to us. So looking at the sheet, goals that you are in control of, one of the goals that you're in control of is tangible pieces of work that you're going to get done in a particular period of time, a task, right? And I've put this one at the top because these are the ones as self-employed people and people running our own businesses that we are so good at putting off and rolling into next month and rolling into next quarter and rolling into next year. I mean, it just happens so easily. I was looking through my list of things to do today and I found an item on my list. This is embarrassing to admit, but it's true. It's rewriting my welcome sequence in Bhakti Rose. So at the moment, I'm writing my welcome sequence, or Edwina has been supporting me. We're writing the welcome sequence for Bhakti Business, meaning when someone opts in to something free in my business, they get sent a bunch of emails, right? To kind of welcome them to my world. So we call it a welcome sequence. I've been meaning to rewrite or just edit and kind of refresh the welcome sequence for Bhakti Rose, my yoga and Ayurveda business, since February. I've been rolling that on my things to do list since February. And I just each month keep rolling it to the next, you know, again and again. So if I don't create a deadline for that, it's just going to stay on the list. It's just going to keep rolling. It'll be next February and it'll still be on there. So I don't recommend that you create deadlines for everything. You can definitely overschedule yourself, and then you just start to feel like you're in a box and it's all a bit kind of claustrophobic, and there's not much spaciousness for creativity. Like, you want to leave some space for organic, like whatever comes up, and being in the flow. And, you know, it's the balance of the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. But you do need that masculine piece of a clear goal. I recommend 1 or 2 big tasks that you're going to get done in that month. Some months there'll be huge tasks. Like last month, it was write and submit a book for me. That's like a massive task for a month. I mean, it was already started, but to get it done and in. It might be something around a sales page or a landing page. It might be about your website. It might be around writing some copy, like your welcome sequence or something like that. But give yourself a goal, give yourself a deadline, hold yourself accountable to it. Write it in your diary, and then also, or your calendar, schedule times that you're going to work on it. That's what I do. So I create the goal. Let's say my goal is that I'm going to have this website finished by the 1st of July. And then I'll block into my schedule times I'm going to work on it. So I know I'm working towards the goal. That's a goal that you are completely in control of. It's just up to you and whether you do the work. Other goals, I've got some financial goals in there, which I think are always important. Like sometimes as sort of spiritual people or yogi people, we think, oh, you know, I'll just leave it to the universe and I'll just be in the flow with it and we'll see what happens, and maybe it'll be abundant, maybe it won't. I can tell you right now, if you think maybe it'll be abundant, maybe it won't, it probably won't. So we just got to, like, again, set a realistic goal, right? Like a goal that feels achievable, a goal that, like, yeah, it's a stretch, but I think I could do this. I remember when I first got divorced and I was first like building my online business, which is 3.5 years ago now. I got divorced a bit before that, but I started the online business about 3.5, 4 years ago. I had no savings at that point. Like my finances were not in a good place. And I had a very clear goal that I wanted to have $3,000 in my business bank account, just as a buffer, just as like a rainy day, it's there buffer. And I worked my ass off to get that money into that account. And it wasn't for a specific thing. It wasn't like I was saving it to do a training or to pay for a website development or something. I just knew that I wanted to have a buffer. I wanted to have an amount of money. And again, it's a made up amount of money. I could have said 1,000, I could have said 10,000, but for me, energetically, 3,000 felt safe, stable. It felt good, possible, but still a stretch, right? And it took me about 5 months, I think, to get there. And it's been there ever since. You know, it sits there as just my buffer in case, who knows what happens. So you might have an income goal for that month, and you might have a savings goal. I personally do those each month. With the income goal, as a self-employed person who's running their own business, it might vary considerably month by month. And this is something that people often don't quite get their head around. So if you've got a job and you're used to getting paid a certain wage each week or each month, you get very used to having the same amount of money come into your bank account regularly. And that feels very safe and it's predictable and what have you. As soon as you start running your own business, it never works like that. You'll have really good months and then really not great months. And so when you're setting your income goal for that month, you need to look at, what am I going to be selling this month? Right? Like if I know, for example, if I'm launching, like this month was good for me because I started this, or last month, because I started this program today, right? So all of you guys came into this program. I got paid by you. Some of you are still paying on payment plans, but so I knew that was going to be happening. I knew how many women I wanted. So I set a goal that was connected to that. Now for June, I'm not launching anything for the first half of June. I'm going to be working closely with you guys and wrapping up a few loose ends. And then I'm going to be having a holiday for 10 days towards the end of June. June's not going to be a high income month for me. I already know that. And it's completely fine. Like, I don't expect it to be. So my income goal for this month is very different to my income goal last month. And you need to get used to that as someone who's running their own business. You've got to look at, when am I launching? What am I launching? How much is it going to cost? And then what goal am I going to set? Right. And as you're mapping out the year, and I might be jumping ahead a little bit for some of you who are at the very beginning now, but as you're mapping out over time, you want to look at having fairly good income generating things that you're launching spread out. Right. So for example, if Annika's got her teacher training launching in, well, let me talk about launching just briefly in terms of timeline. There's launching as in when you put something on sale, and there's launching as in when it starts. The money normally comes in between when it goes on sale and when it starts. So this word launch is a bit vague. It sometimes is a little bit unhelpful. When you want to start generating the income is when it goes on sale. And then by the time it started, most people have already paid. Right, this training is a good example. Like, most of you have already paid. I've mostly received the income from this training. The income came last month and the month before. So when Annika puts her teacher training on sale in July and it begins in October, she will have seen the bulk of the income come in between July and October. And as she's doing her monthly income goals, she can think about that. Right, like, let's say she wants to get 5 signups each month, she could reflect that in her income goal. But then come October, once teacher training starts, she might be a little bit tired of selling and being in kind of push mode and want to take a month of just relaxing and then budget to have a low income month. After a big launch and a big marketing campaign and a big push and lots of selling, I always factor in a down month, because you can't be pushing sales all the time. It gets really depleting. You want to have time where you can just serve and show up and be in your community and not be, I mean, you can always be proactively selling things passively, but not be in a big launch, not be in a big goal kind of push. So that's the income goal piece. And I'm just repeating myself, but it's absolutely okay for your income goal to be 0 for some months. And it's okay for your income goal to be quite high for some months. It just depends on what's going on that month. If it's 0 for every month, then we need to address that, because you need to be making profit. That's not going to work. But equally, if I looked at income goals over a period of 12 months and I saw that every month you were making it higher and higher and higher, my question then would be, where's the cycle in that? Where's the downtime? Where do you give yourself time for rest? Yeah, it's not sustainable. So then directly related to that income goal is money I will save. Okay, so if I'm going to have a month where I'm going to make $10,000, then I'm going to try to save a few $1,000s so that next month, when I only make $2,000, I've got some resources to fall back on. Right, so it's this kind of budget between having a big month and then saving something versus having a planned quiet month and having budgeted for that, so that your nervous system isn't going into fear around my income's dropped, because that's what can happen. You can see, okay, there's no money coming in for a while, even though you planned for that, and then you start to kind of panic and worry and think, oh, my business isn't working. But then you just remind yourself, no, I've budgeted for this, I've planned for it. You know, you tell your nervous system it's okay, you can have some time off, it's fine. I mean, I'm just sharing with you how I work. You might have a slightly different way of doing it, and that's completely fine, but this is how I work energetically in my business. And if your business is still in very early days, this might not be as relevant for you yet, but it will become relevant very quickly. The energy dynamic is the same regardless of what the figures are. It could be a few $100s or it could be a few $1,000s, but the energy dynamic is still the same. Okay, another element of the goal keeping area that I personally do map out each month is my own personal education and learning. So I make a plan around what trainings I'm going to complete and what I'm going to like listen to or engage in. I'm a prolific training junkie. Like, I love to learn. I'm sure most of you are the same. And I sign up for things often. But I'm also a really diligent student. And when I sign up for things, I usually do complete them, partly because I don't want to waste money as well. So like, for example, at the moment, I'm in Victoria Washington's membership program, which I'm loving. She's amazing. I highly recommend it. And it's a 5-month program, and I'm not really doing any other study right now other than that, but it's a lot. Like, it's a lot of listening and watching and journaling, and like, it's quite a full-on program. And so every month I'm making sure I'm listening to a certain number of those videos, I'm doing a certain number of the workbooks, like I'm actually keeping myself accountable for doing that work. It could be books that you're going to read, it could be podcasts that you're going to listen to. It doesn't have to be paid stuff. It might not be a training that you've paid for, but you might be like saying, okay, I really want to improve my website sales pages. So then you'd listen to a few podcasts that talk about how to write good content for sales pages, or you'd watch a few YouTube tutorials. It doesn't mean you have to sign up for expensive trainings. It just means you've got a target around what it is that you're wanting to learn about at that time, and you apply yourself to it. This is a good one. How many will join my database or opt in? So that's a really lovely one to play with. And again, very much an energetic dynamic. I'm thinking about Annika when she did her Mindful May challenge, and then had the goal of 300, and then felt like it wasn't enough. Felt like it was too much, and then actually managed to exceed it. And so that dance around like having a goal and then playing with it, you know. I'll tell you something which I don't have any logical explanation for this, but for like the last 20 years of doing what I've been doing, I just see this over and over and over again. It's so weird. When I set a goal, and it's not just me, this is like across, you know, many other people share this experience. It's so strange how so often the universe just meets me at that goal, or at least really close. Like, I remember the first time I ran Bhakti Women's Summit, which is an online summit that I run once a year in February. I had a goal of 2,000 women. It's free, so it's not that hard to get people to sign up, but it's still work. You know, you still do have to work to get people to sign up for something free. And I remember thinking at the time, 2,000 is like such a stretch, like it's just a massive goal, because it was the first time I'd ever done it, but I really wanted to stretch myself. So that was my goal. And I remember so clearly, this is like nearly 4 years ago now, about a week before the summit started, I had 1,700. And then I worked my socks off and got that last 300. And I think in the end, I literally had something like 2,100 people. And it's so interesting to me how that happens when I just pulled the number out of the sky, right? Like, I made up a number, but somehow when you get energetically invested in that number, it becomes very tangible. It becomes very real. So, you know, your opt-in numbers might be quite low. They might be quite humble. If you're new, it might be 20 people this month. But if you get 20 new people into your world and into your database and into your business, and you nurture them and you look after them and you really warm them up to the work that you're offering, those 20 people can all become customers. There's no reason why not. So it doesn't have to be, bigger numbers aren't necessarily better. There's very variable quality of leads. I mean, you can pay for advertising and get a lot more, but they won't necessarily be people that become loyal to your business. So that's one that I invite you to be a little bit more on the conservative side. Like, don't overstretch yourself, especially if you're more new, but have the goal so that you work towards it. Even if it's just 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. Obviously, if your business is a bit bigger and more established, then go for something bigger, but keep growing your email list, keep growing your database, and set a goal around how you're going to do that. And then finally, this is a goal you may not have every month, depending on what's going on that month, but you might have a goal around a particular program and how many places in that program that you want to sell. So, you know, depending on whether you've got something on offer, like Edwina, for example, when she launched Shakti Creative, I remember she wanted to sell 5 spots in her introductory offer, which she exceeded by quite a long way. But, you know, just that idea that you've got a goal in mind of not just money, but how many spots you want to fill, how many people you want to have in a particular program. And again, if you haven't got anything you're actually selling that month, then you may not have that goal every single month. Okay. I'm just having a quick look in the chat. So Brittany says, do you use a wall calendar? What exactly? Yeah, it's a good question. Elizabeth likes Asana, not just because name. I hate Asana. Look, I'm really I'm really old-fashioned and like very much, I think it's just because I'm old and it's like the way I grew up in the, you know, school system and study and everything, but I just like paper and a pen, and I map out all my launches through handwriting. I even prefer handwriting to typing because somehow my brain just remembers, and it just, yeah. But I notice people who are younger than me that have grown up in a much more digital age are much happier doing it just through technology. Yeah, Asana's like Trello, and there's another one, what's it called? Can't remember. It's like a planning. I just find them so complicated. And also this is, you got to really, really avoid the trap of busy, what we call busy work, which is where you're just fudging around with things like planning and scheduling and mapping things out and not actually doing any work that generates income in your business. Like, it's so easy to just go down that rabbit hole of, oh, I've spent all morning making pretty social media posts. But unless they're part of a strategy and part of a launch and part of a designed implementation of like a program that you've got in mind, they might get lots of likes and people might enjoy reading them, but they're not actually going to move your business forward. So like being really this is part of what the goal setting does, is it stops us from just the busy work of like spinning the wheels but not actually progressing in our businesses and feeling like we're doing things but not really doing very targeted things. So that's why the project management tools, for me personally, I don't like them, because I find I waste a lot of time. I just work with a list. I mean, I literally have a calendar, like a diary, a paper diary. I mean, you've seen I was resistant to even start using Calendly, like with scheduling app, because I just like to do it, but Calendly is helpful. I have a list of things to do. I fill in this, I mean, this numbers goals mind map is like literally what I've been doing for years every month. I've created that for you guys based on what I do. And then I journal a lot. I make lots of notes and I kind of go back over them and look at them and make sure that I'm implementing them. That's how I work. I'm not saying don't use an app or don't use a project management tool, but what I am definitely saying is don't waste time fiddling with it when that's time you could have been using working on your business. Okay, I'm going to pause there. That's my rant about goal setting and numbers, and I'm going to invite questions. So any, or Britt, do you want to introduce yourself quickly, because we didn't get to you?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, great. Yes, so my name is Britt and I am the owner of Bright Star Womancraft, and I offer menstrual education. I offer womb yoga, which I have to think about how to get that into a, I mean, if I would say it right now, I'd say it's yoga for the spectrum, I want to say the spectrum of women across her menstruating years. At least that's what I'm offering it for. And also, what else am I offering? I've gone blank. Oh yeah. the women's mysteries. So I'm a teacher of the women's mysteries as well. I always want to include, I'm a teacher and a student of the women's mysteries, because this is such a vast topic and field that I will always be a student. So it's important to say that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I love that, teacher and student forever. Okay, any questions about goal setting? How have you gone with goal setting in the past? Has it worked for you? Has it not worked for you? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Pick my brain. What do you want to know? Liz.
My goal setting was getting so good during this course, and then we had a few weeks off, and it's like I forgot how to goal set. I was saying this to Edwina. So I love accountability, but I think one of my goals moving forward is going to be able to maintain goals with that. I guess find that space where I can apply that discipline for myself and not just become reliant on accountability.
Mm.
I don't know if anyone else has been feeling that.
What kind of calendar or diary do you have?
I go in between digital and handwritten diary as well. Like I go in between both.
So, I mean, what I do, because I have mine is handwritten, I just have like a post-it note that I literally transfer over from month to month. And then I always, on the 1st or the 2nd of the month, do a review. So this is the other thing that's important, review the month before. So did I meet my goals? That's super important. There's no point setting the goal if you then don't review it. And I write it down. I have a log in the back of my diary where I actually log the goal number and what I achieved. And then I just swaha, I let it go to the universe. There's no like, oh, I didn't make the numbers, or, oh my goodness, I exceeded. Sometimes if I've exceeded a goal by a long way, I might do something as a celebration. Like I might, sometimes I'll say to my kids, okay, we're going out for dinner, or we're going to get milkshakes after school or something like that, because I've really feel like I've exceeded a goal that I had set. So it's nice to celebrate. Or I might treat myself to something like some nice skincare stuff, or something yummy like that. And if I haven't met a goal, I just move on and keep going. But I do strive. I do really hold that energy quite strongly. So yeah, around the beginning of the month, review the month before and log it. So you can look at the patterning. I have a log of the income I've generated in each month and the number of new signups, so I can watch that and track it. And it's quite variable, and I'm okay with that now. I used to find that quite confronting, but I know now that's how it is. And then I set my goals for the next month. And then as well, I've also got a bit of a 6-month to a year plan in terms of what I'm going to launch. Like, for example, right now, I know there'll be another round of this program in September. And then there'll be another round of it again, maybe February or March of next year. I know I've got, various events coming up that I've got to promote. There's a bit of a plan mapped out. And so the goal setting fits in around that. So yeah, Liz, I would say, if you're forgetting to goal set, make a system around it, whether it's in your digital diary or in your paper diary, or you put a calendar on the wall or something, systemize it so that you can't forget.
That's very helpful.
There's a visual reminder. Yeah, thank you. No worries. Anyone else?
Yeah, Katie, I'm also paper person. I'm with you, but I'm a bit old school as well, probably showing my age as well. But my question is just around the database opt-in question. I'm just wondering, I know we talked a little bit about it in our one-to-one yesterday. You had some really great ideas. That's something I'm kind of just at a bit of a standstill with, just really finding it hard to get opt-ins.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of free offerings on my website, and I've refreshed those. I've added something new. But yeah, any ideas?
Just how to get those people. Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about that in detail on Thursday, because we're going to talk about the pyramid of how people come into your world and then how that turns into sales. But for now, if I asked you to pick a number for June, this month ahead, in terms of opt-ins that felt a stretch but manageable, what would that number be? What comes to mind straight away?
Like, honestly, probably 10 to 15.
Okay. And if I said 20, how would that feel?
Maybe okay. I'm not sure. I've had such a slow run with it. I've just sort of forgotten all about it. I haven't been pushing anything. So if I get moving with it, 20 maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I reckon 20. I'm going to say 20 for you. I'm just going to feel that that's possible. So the first step before you even start thinking about how am I going to get these people is over the next day, 2 days, let that settle in your nervous system. 20 new people. They're coming for you. Call them in. I've got Annika doing a beautiful little ritual. I love to do rituals around things. Like I've often got like little knick-knacky ritual things going on in my house around different things to do with my business. So Annika's got wanting to attract 20 people for her teacher training program. And so she has got a glass jar and it's empty, and she's got 20 crystals, little small tumble crystals outside of the jar. And each time someone signs up, my invitation is that she pops a crystal into the jar. So she's actually, and then she's like sending those crystals, like those crystals are the people. They're out there already. They're going to come in. So yeah, you could think about it like that. You might want to get, I mean, even you could just get 20 Post-it notes and stick them on the wall. And every time someone new signs up, you pop their name on a Post-it note and you put it over to the other side. Or a little, target thing that you color in, those old fashioned sort of like each time you get like one more, you just color it in. Like those kinds of visual cues really help with just being in the game of like, I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that's one element, but I would say at this point, don't worry too much about the how. Let's just set the goal and then we'll get to the how. But 20, I think 20 is a really good goal. And one thing I just want to say there is it's 20 email addresses. It's not 20 new social media followers. Social media followers do not belong to you. The algorithm can do anything. Your Facebook account can get shut down. Your Instagram can get shut down. They're not really, you haven't really captured them until you've got their email. So email's not social media followers. Social media followers are great, but they're not, you don't build a business on them. I shouldn't say that. Some people do. And it scares me because I think that could be taken, that rug could be pulled out from underneath your feet at any moment. So collect email addresses. And I saw today, Emma, on your socials that you did a beautiful welcome, hi, I'm Emma post, and you had your opt-in there. So that's a great start.
Thank you.
You might even get your 1 or 2 people today before you've even finished this call.
Thanks, Katie. That was because of you. I thought I'm going to be brave and try and be a bit more just share about myself a bit more on social.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I saw it. I thought it was really lovely.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Britt.
Yes, I was wondering about the process that you go through to work out the priority of your goals. So you might have like 5 and you might not be able to do them all this month. So I'm wondering if you have a process.
Yeah, I love that question. Again, I think my answer is going to be energetic. So do you remember, those of you who are coming back from last round, I spoke last round about how I work quite organically in terms of what I do each day, but I know I've got goals in mind. So like there will be some days where I'm really able to talk to lots of people, record videos, be very out in the world, engage, and so on those days when I wake up in the morning and I have that energy, I'll always choose that work. Like I might record something for a course or go and do an Instagram live or do some Zoom calls if I've got the option to, schedule them spontaneously. Especially if they're calls around sort of wanting to talk about my work with people, because you've got to be in the right space to do that. And then other days, I'm much more introverted, tired, quiet, overexposed, because I've got such a big family as well. Like there are definitely days in my life where I'm just like, I just want quiet. Like my household is so noisy and the kids will go off to school and I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to potter around. And so those days might be days where I'm planning or I'm journaling or I'm, you know, making a website pretty or something like that, like more internal work. And so this is why for me, the monthly goal thing works so well. It's like I have the goal in mind and then I get to choose in each day or in each week what I'm working on, knowing that I've got certain goals for the end of the month I want to get to. Now, with that said, and this is super important, there is also a point at which if you want to progress in your business, sometimes you just have to discipline yourself and do something you don't feel like doing. And this is where a lot of people don't succeed, if I'm being completely blunt, in being self-employed, because they don't discipline themselves. They don't ever get to the point where they, you know, like my least favorite thing is to go into the back end of Kajabi and tidy up my tags and my database and check my statistics on things like email marketing, right? It's not interesting to me. But if I don't do it, my business doesn't progress. It's really important. So sometimes I just discipline myself. I just have to do it. And I do think that's really important. It's really important. That's part of the goals, is that you hold yourself accountable to also doing the things you don't feel like doing sometimes. We just all have to do it. Or if you've got the budget to do so, outsource it. But, you know, most of us at this point in our businesses, including myself, don't have big budgets to outsource lots of things. Although sometimes you can. I mean, I've had Edwina helping me this last month with quite a few things because I've had such a busy month. I've been writing the book and stuff like that. And I've known there are things I want to get done. I'm like, I'm at capacity and I just have to delegate some stuff. And that's okay too. So there's a difference between like really being at capacity and burning out. I'm not advocating that in any way, versus I'd rather just watch TV and I can't be bothered. That's a different thing, right? And we all know what the difference is. And then, so just going back to Britt's question about prioritizing goals, usually it'll be around so there'll be the bigger plan and then the goals work back from that. So for example, I know I'm going to be running a summit in August with Yoga Australia. I've got to start thinking backwards from that now. I've got to start inviting guests. I've got to start doing the interviews. I've got to start putting the marketing material together. I've created the deadline. I've fixed the date. And then you kind of work backwards from that. And you can self-impose that. Like, you know, Britt wants to release a journal. So you create the date of when you want to release the journal, and then everything else works backwards from that. And you have goals that you have to, milestones that you have to reach. So you're not leaving it all till the last minute. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
It's quite an intuitive process, I guess, is my short answer, but an intuitive process with accountability. Was there something specific that you had in mind, or?
No, I think I was talking to you about this previously at some point, and I think you were, yeah, you just said something about it, so I was curious to know your process, but you've shared your process, so thank you.
No worries. One last thing I want to say, just jumping back to this email addresses thing and the opt-in numbers around that, and this is particularly for a couple of you, Edwina, definitely Amanda, maybe others, maybe Liz too, is there's opt-ins that are new people that are new to your world, and then there's also gathering your database where you haven't collected email addresses when you could have been. So it's really like, so for example, with Liz, is there a way you can go back to, and it might not be possible, but I'm just like speculating, people within the fashion industry that you've worked with in the past, even from your shop days, you know, like when you had the shop, like how can you get those email addresses? For Amanda, how can you get the email addresses of people who've done every training with you, people that have attended your retreats? So there's often little pockets of email addresses that are available to you that you haven't yet thought about going back and collecting, and probably all you need to do is ask. definitely for Amanda, because we spoke about this when we chatted, like one of the first things I'm going to get you to do is consolidate your database, like just pump some email addresses into there. So yeah, think about, are there places where I've left email addresses on the table and how could I collect them? If you're a yoga teacher, at the end of every class, can you be asking people for their email addresses? Have you run workshops where you didn't collect the email addresses somehow? Can you get them? So that's often you've already got an audience, but you just haven't got them in your newsletter, on your database. Same with social media. If you've got quite a large following on social media, but you haven't got a large database, how are we going to get people from your social media into your database? That's the low-hanging fruit. And there can be some ways that you can do that. You might direct message people and offer them something. You might put some posts up that have a direct kind of opt-in call to action, etc., etc. We can talk more about that next time because it's more relevant to opting in. But just on that numbers goal around the database, you're not having to find these people completely cold. Often they're already in your world. They're just not in your database yet. One last question. Anyone? We're all good? All right, beautiful. If you want to share your goals with me, feel free. I'm more than happy to receive them. If you don't, that's also fine as well. Edwina's requesting, can we all share the social medias in the WhatsApp, which I agree, let's all do that so we can follow each other. And I think I'm following most of you, but you probably aren't all following each other. So that would be really nice. And websites too. I think that's a great idea. Let's do all of that in the WhatsApp. Yeah, Liz lost 16,000 people from a Facebook hack. See, it happens. It totally happens. Melissa Ambrosini, do you guys know Melissa Ambrosini? Her Facebook got hacked recently and she lost thousands. Like, it was devastating to her business, like, and financially had a big impact too. So I just don't trust it. I think of social media as a nice addition to my business, but it's certainly not the bread and butter of my business at all. The bread and butter is my database, and no one can take that away from you. Like, I know, even though my business in some ways, I find it so interesting because a business that's built on the internet, it always feels like a business that's built on sand to me. You know, it's like so not real. Like, if, you know, I don't have, like, it's not like when I used to run the yoga studios, I used to feel like this is something that is of service no matter what's going on in the world, right? I mean, I didn't imagine a pandemic could happen and would mean we couldn't all be in the room at the same time, but like, it's tangible, it's concrete. It's like if you make something, you know, if you make chairs or you cook food, or there's something so tangible and real about that. And then when I shifted my business into the online space, I really felt, and I still do feel, if I'm being completely honest, to a certain extent, like it's so not real, you know? And yet each month I do make money. So, you know, something real is happening. But what I've come to realize is the realness of my business, or the worth of my business, is two things. It's the body of work, which no one can take away from me because there's years of experience in that. And it's a lot of dedication has gone into that. So the body of work is one thing, and it's the database. Because that database has value, because I know if I create a new offering, my database is so, I look after my database. I send regular newsletters, I nurture them, I give a lot of free stuff. Like, it's like caring for a family, and they're ready to buy things off me because of that. And that's what you've got to do. Your database has to become, think of it like a family. How can I give? How can I serve? How can I bring people in? Like, I'm having a dinner party, I want you all to come, you know? And then it's so easy from that place to then sell, because people want what you've got to offer, because they're already in your world and they're loving what you're doing. And then the really beautiful thing about that too is, Annika and I were talking about this yesterday, if people don't have the money to buy, or for whatever reason they can't or don't want to buy, they still got something beautiful, right? They still got to be in an amazing free program that you offered, or they got a free ebook or whatever it was. They still benefited from your work. And that's a really beautiful exchange as well. All right. So I'll see you again on Thursday. Thursday's going to be all about opt-ins, offers, that type of thing. But if you can, before then, homework, do a goal setting exercise for June. And if you want to share it with me, please go ahead. Thanks, ladies. Namaste. Have a beautiful evening.